Good morning. In this video, I'm going to show you another way of exploring how to make sourdough for your journey. Have you guys ever been scrolling on videos and you see these people doing these big, huge, massive loaves? I mean, they're one loaves, but they're just ginormous. They're like big old Mount St. Helens loaves. Well, it's pretty basic. It's not that they have perfected anything, or it's just how they make it, or they have a secret recipe. Sometimes they'll say, oh, my recipe, go buy my recipe. I'll show you how to do it. It's pretty basic, you guys. All they are doing is adding more flour to the recipe. And a lot of times I notice they are not accounting for the amount of flour and water that is already in their starter. So their loaves end up being well over 800 grams of just flour in their loaf, and that's how they achieve those big loaves. Well, today I'm going to show you how they do that and how I like to do it, but I like to be very precise with my measurements, so I always go off baker's percentages. So our flour will be on point, our hydration will be on point, our inclusions will be on point. Everything is right down to the T for you, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Okay, so let's kick this off. I'm going to go over a few things you're going to need, and then I will go off the recipe, and we will kick this off with a bang today. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, okay? All right, it's just some few simple things you're going to need. You're going to need some unbleached bread flour. You're going to need a bowl with a lid, okay? You're going to need some filtered water. You are going to need some sea salt, some organic honey, and I figured we could do some inclusions for this loaf. Would be fun. With that being said, you're going to need some jalapeno juice. You're going to need your active yeast, hence active starter. And of course, you're going to need some cheese and jalapeno peppers, okay? You are also going to need a few tools, all right? You're definitely going to need a kitchen thermometer. You're definitely going to need a scale. If you do not have a scale and you want to measure this in cups, that's okay, but it will not be precise. It will be close enough, but it won't be exact, okay? And this is a nice little fun tool. It's optional, okay? These couple tools are going to be optional. These are a must, but these are optional. I like to keep a little jar, and what I like to do is take a little bit of my dough out after I work the dough at the beginning of this video, and I put it in this little cup, and it's another way for you to help you determine your bulk fermentation, okay? And then a nice little silicone lid so that dough in there doesn't dry out, okay? And like I said, these are also optional. I like to have a little flexible silicone bench scraper. I like to have a little silicone spatula to get my starter out, and my honey and my salt and my juice and etc. with that. And last but not least, I love having this little stainless steel whiskey poo to whisk my starter and my water and my flour and everything up. It's a nice thing to have, but like I said, these four right here, you absolutely don't have to have. You can absolutely use your hands. All right, with that being said, let's get in more precise of exactly what this recipe is going to be, so you can write this down and you can follow along and you can get everything prepped so you can come along with me today, all right? So the recipe stands. You're going to need 675 grams of unbleached bread flour, okay? You're going to need 440 grams of filtered water. To be more precise, I am using spring water. You're going to need 150 grams of active yeast, hence active starter. And in this little jar right here, you are going to need 10 grams of that jalapeno juice. You're going to need 15 grams of sea salt, and you're going to need 15 grams of organic raw honey. If you do not have organic raw honey, that's quite all right. You can use regular honey, okay? And as far as the inclusions go, I'm going to tell you exactly what the grams are on that, so everything comes out right. You're not overloading your dough, and it's going to come out beautifully in the end, okay? As far as the inclusions are weighing out, you are going to come in strong with 75 grams of chopped finely jalapeno peppers, and you are going to come in with 75 grams of cheese. I'm using sharp cheddar cheese, okay? And I also like to add a little smoked paprika and a little cayenne pepper in that as well. Measure with your heart on your spices. It just depends on how smoky and how spicy you want that, okay? All right, with all that being said, we know exactly what we're using. So first things first, I want you to go over to your stove and I want you to go heat up that 440 grams of your filtered water. I'm going to go heat up my spring water in my kettle. Try to heat your water up to about 95 to 98 degrees. With that being said, I will see you back when your water is heated up, okay? Okay, we got our our water heated up. Mine is temping out at 98 degrees, by the way. With that being said, let's go ahead and add our starter, okay? Okay, we got our starter. Let's go ahead and give this a mix. Okay, your starter should be looking like that, or your starter and your water, nice and frothy. Okay, you always know when you did a good job on your peak of your starter by the bubbles, how it looks, okay? When it looks all frothy like that, you did a good job. All right, so now that we got that mixed up, okay, I want you to stop what you're doing and I want you to go look at your time, because the minute we add our flour to our starter is the minute our bulk fermentation time starts. Okay, so go look at your time, come back, I'm gonna go look at mine, and then we're gonna start mixing this, okay? All right, got my time. Let's go ahead and add our flour. Just like so. All right. And before we get to mixing this, I want you to just go put like a 1/4 cup of flour in this bowl. This will come into play here after we get done playing with our dough, okay? Something like that. All right, set that aside. All right, let's start mixing. Now what we are going to do to start out, everybody is optional, okay? You can finish mixing this in your bowl, or you can take it out on the counter like I'm going to show you. I have found of many ways throughout my journey that I have learned to work the dough in the beginning stages. I find that taking it out on the counter, and I'll show you how I do it, has always worked the best for me. So that's kind of how I stick to that. Okay, I'm just going to mix this up. It's going to start looking nice and shaggy. It shouldn't be that hard to mix, considering that this is going to be a 70% hydration recipe, okay? It's going to be nice, right in the mix. And it might be closer to 71, maybe 72, because you got to keep in mind the peppers and the cheese are going to add just a little bit more of hydration, but we're going to be pretty close to that 70%. Now this is what your dough should be looking like. Just like that, okay? All right, now that you got that, I want you to stop what you're doing and I want you to go set your timer for 20 minutes, okay? And I'm going to go set mine and I'll be right back. All right, now that we got our timer set for 20 minutes, we are going to be working our dough for 20 minutes. Okay? All right, that's what I do. Just get it off my nice little whiskey poo, just like that. All right, I set that aside. I come back with my handy dandy scraper. And what I like to do is get the sides off. All right. As much flour off as I can out of the bowl. And I put it right there on my counter. And I just keep scraping my bowl. Getting the last little minute bits and pieces off there that I can. So I'm not missing any of the dough and the water and the active yeast. All right. Okay. Should look something like that. Okay. I'm going to set my bowl aside. And this is what I start doing. Okay. Dry hands. I like to just start doing this rocking motion. And you're going to notice right at first, I want you to notice the dough, how this falls apart. Okay. It's sticky. It's kind of hard to manage. But I promise you, even a minute or two into this, this is going to get much better to work with. So what I do is I'm pulling it and stretching it, pulling it and stretching it, or pushing and pulling, just like this. I want you to do this for the next 20 minutes. Turn on some music, turn on a show, get comfortable. You can absolutely mix it up in the bowl if you want, but I have tried that before and I feel like it's way more of a workout in the bowl than it is right on my counter. And even though my counter may look a little sticky right now, when I get done with this, it's not going to be sticky. What we are doing right now is we are strengthening our gluten, okay? We are really giving our dough every chance to succeed and have that big, beautiful oven spring at the end. You will thank yourself later not skipping this step, okay? This is a very important step in making sourdough. Do not skip strengthening your gluten right at the beginning of your when you're making it, you know, making a loaf of sourdough, okay? So this is what I do. Notice how it's still sticky? I will take the straight edge part and I will just push that back like that. And you notice that even a minute into it, look, see how it's getting a little bit more stronger? And just keep going like that. I go push up, I pull back and stretch like that. Push up, pull back and stretch. Now I've been doing this for quite a while, so it probably looks a little easier than what you think, but I promise you guys, it is easy. Once you get the hang of doing this, you're going to find it's so much easier than in the bowl. Everybody is different. Some people at the stage will do slap and folds, kind of like slapping it. I'll show you. They kind of take their dough like this sometimes, and they'll just go on the counter and they'll slap it down. They'll pick it up and they'll slap it down like that. But I have found that this motion works best for me. And when I get about a couple minutes into it, I'll pick the dough up and I'll give it a long stretch, and then I'll go back and put it in a ball, and I'll show you that method real quick before I leave you for 20 minutes. And I'll be back on the 20-minute mark to show you what the dough is looking like. But just keep going like this. Keep going like it. And you'll notice we're a couple minutes into this, okay? And you'll notice the dough is getting better. So sometimes if you want to take a break, don't overwork yourself. You don't have to totally beat yourself up over this. Just kind of nice slow motions. What I'll do is I'll get my dough into a ball like this, and I will pick it up and I will start stretching it like so. I'll stretch it, come back, stretch it, come back, and then I just put it back on the counter and I keep going like that. Just keep doing that motion. If your dough is starting to spread out like that, get your little scraper and put it back in a ball and just keep going. And you're going to notice it's getting a little less gooey, a little less sticky. It's getting more tacky, which is a good thing. And it's, you know, some people don't like to touch the dough. They put the, you know, the disposable gloves on and they throw them away after they get done. But I have found that if you just start touching your dough and working with your dough like this at the very beginning and getting your hands just a little bit dirty, per se, sticky, dirty, you're going to learn what your dough should feel like throughout your journey. And it really is a teaching moment for you, and it really will teach you something. Actually getting your hands in the dough and touching it itself will teach you a lot of things about how your dough is supposed to feel, how it's, you know, how the gluten feels once it's strengthened, etc. So if, you know, I could give you many pieces of advice, but one piece of advice starting your journey: work with your dough. Work with your dough. Pull out of the bowl and work with your dough, and you will find, you will learn, your dough will teach you a lot of things all on its own. So, you know, it's just a nice tool for you to learn, and it really will help you at the end. So, but like I said, just keep going like this. See how the dough's kind of getting away from me? What I said, I get it back in a ball, just like that. Do you notice how more smooth our dough's getting just by doing this? Just keep going like this. Every once in a while, pick it up and give it a long stretch like I did and set it back down. That's it. Pull up, push up, pull back and stretch. Push up, pull back and stretch. All right. So I'm going to keep doing this for the duration of the 20 minutes. If you are getting tired and you have to take a break, pause your time. Go take a break, get you a drink of water, a cup of coffee, maybe turn on some music, and then start your time again and come back. As long as you are working this for 20 minutes, 15, a minimum of 15, it's going to be okay, I promise you. All right, with that being said, I will see you back at the 20-minute mark, okay? Okay, we are 10 minutes into it, a little under 10 minutes, 9 minutes left. I want you to show you that, and I want you to show you another trick too. Some people will pick their dough up and they'll slap it like that, and they will just keep going back and forth. They'll kind of go like this, pick it up, slap it down. Go like that. Sometimes I do that. I do all things: stretching, slapping, rubbing. Pick it up, slap it back down. Keep going. Just like that. Pick it up, fold it underneath itself. So when you pick it up, you're going to, like that, twist it. Keep going. Good job. Keep going, just like that. Pick up your dough, stretch it. Pick up your dough, stretch it. Pick up your dough, stretch it. Keep going. All right, we're probably 8 minutes left into it. Like I said, one more time. Flip your dough like that. See how I'm flipping it over? Slap it down. Slap it down. Whoop. Okay. Just keep going with it. However you like to do it. Doesn't matter. The more aggressive you are with your dough, the more it is going to be work for you. The more you are strengthening your gluten. So just, you know, some people get it just like that. What they are doing is they're taking their dough and flipping it. Just like that. Pulling it, flip it, slap it. I know, it's a little crazy. It looks crazy. But it's I don't do too many of those, but it's nice to mix it up. Beat your dough up a little. The rougher you are with your dough right now, the more you're going to strengthen your gluten. And you're going to notice your hands don't have too much dough on it. All right, with that being said, I'll see you back at the 20-minute mark, okay? Okay, we are at the 20-minute mark. You're going to notice your dough looks very, very nice. Look at the stretch. So this is what I do. Now that I got that worked, I will pull this up. I'll do one more slap, 2 more slaps, 3 more slaps. And what I'll do is I'll pick my dough up one last time, stretch it as far as it will go, stretch it one more time, stretch it, and then I come back here, getting excess dough that I may have gotten off my hands, and you're going to notice our hands aren't looking that that doughy, right? That sticky, because we officially worked the dough really good. I want you to notice something. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that gluten. Look how much we strengthened that gluten. Isn't that nice? Okay, so what I do is, now that I got this, I'm going to get that bowl that we used. I'm going to kind of tuck this in a nice little ball. Something like that. Get my little helper and tuck it into a nice ball. Just like so. Okay, because we're going to let this rest for an hour, okay? So first things first, let's go ahead and temp our dough, okay? Let's get our thermometer in here so we know where we're starting at. Set this aside. Remember that flour I told you to get out? Now you notice your counter is not going to have any dough on it. Do you notice that? I mean, it's got the flour from when we first started, but there's no chunks of dough because we worked the gluten. So remember that flour I told you to take? While we're letting this temp, pretend this is your trash can, but I want to show you on the video. Just take, for those of you that are really concerned about having sticky hands and you don't like that feeling and you don't want to get it down your drain, that's why you use gloves. Ditch the gloves. Just use a little bit of flour, okay, on your hands, and just keep rubbing it together, and you will get like 99% of that dough off your hands the more you work it with the flour. Kind of go like that. Like that. And the best part about you doing this is you're not throwing away plastic that can't be biodegradable, and it's not recyclable, those latex gloves, and you're saving your drains. So it's a 2-in-1 for you, right? You're not clogging up your drains with the starter or the Active Yeast that's in the dough. That's what turns into this rock hard cement like substance in your drains and your sink, is the starter. So it's just like when you're soaking your starter jars after you get done with it. Fill your starter jar about 3/4 of the way full of really, really hot water, and then fill the rest up with distilled white vinegar and a little bit of your dish soap, and let your jar soak. And in about an hour of that being soaked, you have the vinegar will have eliminated any life left in your starter, and it will be safe for you to wash down your drains because it eliminated that living starter, and it's just wheat grains at that point. So there's another little tip for you. when you're soaking, you don't have to take your jars outside and spray it in your grass, or, you know, just scrape as much as you can off into the trash can and go soak it. And with that white vinegar in there, after an hour or so, it's eliminated. It's just wheat grains. It's completely fine to go down your drains. So that's how you get that off your hand. Kind of a neat little trick, right? And we're giving our dough time to temp out, resting just a pinch. Okay, see? So now my hands are clean enough. You can keep going if you like, but I just want to show you this. Obviously, you probably want to take off any type of wedding rings that have any stones or anything in it. But I just have a white gold wedding band, so I never get dough stuck in it or anything like that. So I never take my wedding band off, by the way. So I never have like dough stuck on it. It's just a white gold band. All right. So now that we got that, okay, let's go ahead and clean this up just a pinch, all right? Okay, and that's what your hands will be looking like. Virtually nothing left on it. Isn't that a nice little trick, just like your starter? Told you you'd thank me later. All right, so let's recap, okay? We got our bulk fermentation time marked down, okay? From an hour from this time right now, we're going to come back and do our first round of stretch and folds and add our, we're not going to add our inclusions until the second round of stretch and folds, but in an hour where you're going to come back and do our first round of stretch and folds, okay? So let's recap. Our dough is coming in at 76 degrees. Okay. All right. And let me see if I can get my house temp on for you real quick. Okay, my house is coming in at 73 degrees. Okay. So our dough is coming in at 76.5 to be exact. My house is coming in at 73 degrees, which is good. Okay, with that being said, let's take our thermometer out. We're going to let this rest an hour right on our counter. If your house is running cooler and you have maybe one of those countertops that's like marble or granite or stone or maybe linoleum, mine is a wood countertop, just go get you a hand towel, or I like to use this under my bowl. I always just use a little silicone mat, and it's kind of like insulation for your bowl, so your bowl's really not cooling down to the temperature of your counter. It's just cooling down to the temperature of your house, okay? That comes into factor too. All right, so with all that being said, we're going to let this rest. We got our time marked from an hour from when I told you to mark that time, and I will officially see you in an hour, okay? One more thing, I suppose, I'm glad I caught this because I was getting ready to do this as I didn't show you. Okay, we got our dough. Apologies. Now's the time. Good thing I caught it right at the beginning. Now is the time to take a little bit of that dough out. Okay, so just take a pinchy poo. You don't need a lot. Something like that. Okay. Maybe a little bit more. Your dough is still going to come out big and fluffy, okay? It's not much. What I like to do is I just like to roll this into a ball like that. And I set it in my little container. And I kind of flatten it out. Now remember, we're not putting much in here, so it's not going to be clear to the top, but it's going to be enough. And I kind of just even that out at the bottom. Okay, something like that. You don't have to squish it completely down. And I'll go ahead and mark a little Sharpie so we can kind of, show our growth in here, give you, a nice representation of what it's looking like, something like that. Okay. And what I do is I just place squish my little lid in there, and then that little spot that we took out, just, patch her back up. She'll be all right. All right, now I'll officially see you in an hour, okay? Okay, we have reached the 1 hour mark. This is what your dough should be looking like. All right. Before we do our first round of stretch and folds, please keep your inclusions out at room temperature, okay? This will help to prevent your dough from cooling down when we add this in the second round. And that goes for the juice as well, okay? Just a little tip for you. All right, so when I do my stretch and folds, I always use that same spring water that I use in my recipe, but I always keep it really warm so I'm not cooling down my dough as well, okay? So some clean water, obviously some clean hands. What we're gonna do, we're gonna come up here. We're going to get underneath here and we're going to pull this as far as this bowl will let us go, okay? Or the dough will let us go. Stretch it as far as it will go without ripping it. Gently place it down. Now when I do this, I go north, south, east, west, or west, east, however. So we did the north, flip it around to the south. That'll kind of keep it a more reference for you, okay? Let's come over here. Kind of get it off the bottom. And I just pull this up as far as it will let me go. Sometimes you lift the bowl up a little bit. Keep going with it. You can stretch it as far as it'll let you stretch. Pull it back down. Okay, let's go to the east. Let's get underneath here. We're just going to pull this up. Stretch, 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 stretch. Pull it back down. Let's go over to the west. Okay. And we'll just keep pulling that up. Pull it up all the way over. And this is sometimes what I like to do is I like to scrape off all the little bits. And I will take my dough and I will stretch it. Stretch it. Stretch it. And then I will roll it back up into a nice ball. Just like so. Okay. And I'll try to get off any last little minute pieces. You can use your little scraper if that helped you. Okay, just like so. And I place that back down. Tuck it into a nice ball. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to go dry my hands off and we're going to temp our dough. Okay, always make sure your thermometer is kind of try to get it in the heart of the dough without touching the bottom of the bowl. You just want the temperature of the dough. That's what we're aiming for. Okay, so let's recap why this is catching up on the temperature. Okay, when we got done, when we first messed with the dough and we worked it and we put it in the bowl, my house was coming in at 73 degrees and the dough was coming in at 76.5, okay? All right, now my house is coming in at 75 degrees and our dough is coming in at 75.3. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take that out. Place that to the side. And cover up our bowl. Okay, we're going to set that aside right on our little mat. Here's our little buddy. I made a little line for you, okay? Whoop. There's your line. You won't see much action at first, but this is going to start growing very quickly, okay? All right. And don't be afraid when your dough is coming in cooler at 75. We kind of want to be in that 75 to 78 because it's a give and take, okay? So if we were warming our dough up extremely warm, like 80 degrees, 81, we'd only have to do our counter bulk fermentation time anywhere from maybe 4 to 6 hours. But it would have only been 20% of its bulk fermentation time. So that means we still will have another 80% to go to leave that in the fridge and cold proof. And sometimes that could be well over 24 or maybe even 48 hours depending on how warm your fridge is. So keep that in mind. If you're kind of still lost on what bulk fermentation times and stuff like that, on my YouTube channel right here, if you go to the playlist, you will see a video. It's called What Bulk Fermentation Means, and I kind of break down the times and etc. So 75 to 78 is a good range. We're going to be in the 6 to 7 hour mark today. And also, do you notice that how my house is coming in at 75 degrees? Whatever your house is usually is what your dough is going to be. So just keep that in mind. With that being said, we're right on track. This is going to be a really good day for us to make this loaf of inclusions. I will officially see you in a half an hour from now, okay? Okay, it's been a half an hour. It is time to add our inclusions, okay? This is what our dough's looking like, okay? So first things first, get you some clean hands, get you a nice, warm, semi-hot bowl of water, okay? This is what we're gonna do. Those inclusions that have been sitting on the counter since first thing in the morning, we're going to sprinkle this right on the top, okay? Evenly distribute it out. Make sure there's no big chunks. Another thing, when I did grate my cheese, you know how there's like, I'll show you after I get done with the cheese grater. how there's like 3 or 4 different options. I go to the very, very smallest option on there, so my cheese is grated very thin. And that's another way that will help you so you don't get those big fat chunks. Okay, so something like that, all right? Okay, so now that I got all this like this, now it's time to add our salt, our honey, and our pepperoni juice, okay? Now you're going to notice most of the salt is dissolved, but all this right down here, this is pretty much sugar from the honey, okay? That little white stuff that was left in there. So what I do is I stir this around. Get all that on there. Just get it mixed up real good. Doesn't have to be perfect. Something like that. Okay. Okay. And I just pour this in here. Back and forth. You're going to get some stuck in there. Take it out. Get as much as you can off of there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Looking like that. Okay, good. Sometimes I'll go like that. I'll set that aside. Pick up any little pieces. Okay. So when you are doing inclusions, okay, I'm going to show you a trick. We're going to start dimpling this dough, but we're not going all the way through it. We're just dimpling on the top surface of our dough like so. And I'm going to show you how to create layers with your inclusions. So when you go to bake your loaf, it's evenly distributed, and it's all through your dough. Every part of your dough will have a little piece of cheese, a little piece of pepper, etc. So you can already tell how that's kind of getting evenly incorporated. And this doesn't take very long to just dimple it in, because we're going to be doing some stretch and folds after this, okay? And I'm going to show you what I mean by layers. Okay, so you just kind of go around, and you're going to notice the dough's going to start peeking through, kind of like focaccia, right? We're just lightly dimpling this right at the top. Getting all that pepperoni juice, the salt, the honey evenly incorporated. Okay. So now that you got it like that, fill your inclusions. Are they not moving? That's a good thing. That's when you can go ahead and start your first round of stretch and folds. Okay. So now that we got that, let's get our hands just a little bit wet. Okay. And we are going to start doing layers. Okay. We're going to pull this up as far as it will go. We're going to place this back down. And before you go to we got the north, before we go to the south, we're going to dimple this. Kind of like that. What you're doing is you're dimpling it, and you're ensuring that any big pockets that you might have squished down and had a bunch of cheese or peppers caught in it is squishing itself back out. Okay, so we got the north. Let's turn it around to the south. Get your hands just a little bit more wet. Come up on it. Stretch, 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 stretch. Just keep going. Okay, pull it back down. Come back down and do the same thing. Dimpling your dough. Just like so. You can get any of these little pieces off. Okay, you can go east or west. It doesn't matter. Let's go to the east, I think. Get your hands a little bit more wet. Get in there. Start stretching it up as far as your dough will let you go. Pull it back down. Dimple it in again. Just like so. Okay, come over to the west side. Right here. Get your hands a little wet. Come back in. We're going to stretch, 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 stretch. Pull it back down. Dimple in your dough. Just like so. Okay. Now that we got that all dimpled in real good, you can come back here and pick up any little pieces that you've may forgot. And there, you always have a pinch or two fall out. That's okay. No inclusion left behind. We're getting it all. So what I like to do is I kind of just come over here a little bit more. Dimple it in and go around the bowl a little bit more. Fold it in. Any of these little pieces like that may be on the outside. Poke in. I come back again. Roll it back into itself. Roll it back into itself. And sometimes, like I said, what I'll do with the dough is I will just kind of roll my dough up into a ball. Any of these little pieces, I'll stick in the middle of that dough. And I will kind of go like this with it. Kind of just roll it into itself. Because we're still going to be coming back doing some coral folds and stuff, so it's not the end. Now at this point, since my bowl is awful dirty per se, what I like to do is I like to switch that and do a clean bowl. Okay. Now's your point. If you want, you can grease your bowl, and so your dough will like completely slide out at the end. But what I like to do is I like to kind of challenge myself a little bit with it to see if I got my bulk fermentation knocked out. So what I'll do is I'm going to go wash my hands up real quick. I'll come back with the bowl and then the scraper, and we're going to get all this out and we're going to put this in a new bowl. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, got me a new bowl, same size. As you can see, look, nice and tough. I don't grease my bowl. Squeak. Okay, but you can. If you don't want your dough to stick and you're worried about it, you guys just go put a little avocado oil and grease your bowl, and I can guarantee your dough is going to slide right out. That's how you see those people, you know, they dump it out and it flops right out. It's because they're just greasing their bowl. But I like to challenge myself, so I don't do that. Now that I got my dough into a ball, my dough into a ball, I'll pick it up. I'll place it right in the clean bowl, just like that. And what I do is I scrape off any of these nice little juice inclusions I got going on and put it on the top. I just scrape that, keep going. Good job. Go around the bowl. And it keeps me from really having to like soak my bowl forever, you know, because it's going to be kind of crusty at the end. So, but there's nothing wrong. Like I said, you want to grease your bowl, you guys go grease your bowl. If you like it to flop out real nice and you don't want to struggle with it getting stuck in there, go grease it. But I promise you, if you kind of just follow my directions and kind of doing what I'm doing, I promise you I'll show you some tips and tricks to knock out your bulk fermentation, and you won't have to really worry about it getting stuck. Okay, now that we got that, okay, I'll go wash that out in a minute. All right, so now that we got that, let me dry my hands off. Let's go ahead and temp our dough. Okay? All right. We're going to temp our dough just for reference. My house is coming in at 75 degrees. Okay. So 75 degrees is the house temp. It's holding steady. Let's see what the dough is going to come in at. Now keep in mind our inclusions might cool down our dough a degree or two. It might not. It's been sitting out at room temperature for quite a while, so I don't see it really cooling it down too much. Okay. So our dough is coming in at 75.5 degrees. That's good. It's holding steady at that 75.5 degrees. Okay. Now keep in mind your dough will warm up all on its own the more it goes along. It's just, it does that because the more you're touching it, the warmer it's going to get, type thing. Okay. So I cover my bowl back up really nice. Something like that. Okay. I set it back in place. Let's go ahead and take a look at our buddy. This is what our buddy is looking like. Right there. You can kind of see there was the line. You can kind of see it's moving up just a pinch. That's good. Keep in mind it's never going to get clear up here because we didn't put a lot in here, but we will be seeing some growth after a while. Okay, so I just like that. I set it next to its friend. All right, with that being said, I will officially see you in another half an hour, okay? Okay, we're back. All right, it's been another half an hour. This is what our dough is looking like. All right, we're gonna do one more round of stretch and folds to really get these inclusions incorporated. And then we're gonna come back for the fourth round and do one nice coral fold, and that's gonna be it. We're in. The last time we're going to touch our dough is this time and one more time, and then we're going to let the yeast do its job. Okay, so north, south, east, west. We're going to pull up here, stretch, 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 stretch. Place it back down. Let's go to the south. Okay, stretch, stretch. Be careful with you have inclusions. As far as it'll let you go. Okay, let's go to the east. Okay, Stretch, 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 stretch. Okay, let's go to the west, like so. Okay, let's get it up there. Be careful with your inclusions. You don't want to rip your dough. Just like so. So that at this point, what I do is I get it all in a nice ball again. Okay, just like so. Just like that. Okay, don't worry about some of the inclusions. That's going to be okay. It'll give your dough character. I just want you to look at the dough. How we did that last round. See how it's getting more incorporated. If you don't want a big chunk, tuck it in there. Remember, your dough works for you. You don't work for your dough, okay? You can absolutely manipulate the temperature, how fast you want it to go, how slow you want it to go, etc. It's all just percentages and timing and temperature. Percentages, timing, and temperature. That's all that is. Okay, let me go dry off my hands and we'll be back to temp our dough. Okay, always right in the heart of the dough. Okay. All right, let's do a recap why this is warming up. My house is still holding steady at 75 degrees. Okay. All right. And our dough looks like it's at 75.5 right now, which is a good degree we want to be in. This is good. Okay. Well, 75.6 now. Okay. All right. 75.6. All right. We're going to put this back on. Okay. We're going to place it right on the side of our counter right there. Let's go ahead and take a look at our buddy. You're not going to see much movement right away because this is coming in at 75 degrees. But when it's coming in at 75, you will thank yourself later because by the time we get done taking this out of the bowl, shaping it, letting it rest for about an hour in our basket, and then putting it in the fridge, it will already have been 50% of the way done with this bulk fermentation. So the timeline for that is going to be very short for it to finish its bulk fermentation in the fridge because it's so much cooler. It's gonna bulk ferment so much faster. The hotter your dough is, the longer it takes to cool down versus the longer it takes to bulk ferment in the fridge time, okay? Or your fridge bulk fermentation time, so keep that in mind. All right, that's our buddy. Whoop. Just like that. We're gonna set that aside and I will officially see you in another half an hour for our last time we're going to touch the dough for a couple hours, okay? I'll see you then. Okay, it's been another half an hour. Let's take a look at our dough. Woo, look. Oh, you know you're doing good when you got a bubble already. That's a good sign. All right. Once again, clean hands, nice, warm, clean water in a clean bowl. Okay. We always want things nice and clean. All right. This time we are going to be doing about 4 or 5 stretch and folds, and that's it. We're going to temp our dough, and I'm going to tell you where we're at. Let's get our hands wet. Your dough should be feeling a lot fluffier. We're going to go 1, shake it, place it back down north. Okay. Or actually, this time we're going to go north, west, south, east. Okay. Almost got that backwards. Okay. West, shake it, be careful, it's got inclusions. Okay, we're coming to the south. Come up again, you're going to notice this is going to slide down easily. Okay, we're doing the last one. We're going to the east. And you can feel that dropping down on its own when it's gliding like that, when you're picking that up. That's a good thing. Now I try to stretch it and do 2 more, but you don't want to rip your dough. Just like that. You see how that when I picked it up, it kind of got really thin in the middle, and you'll notice that too. You don't want to pick your dough up anymore. So sometimes I'll get away with 5, sometimes I'll get away with 6. But since this has inclusions, I'm not going to press it and rip my dough. So what I like to do is like to get this in a nice round ball the best I can, because you can tell, see where there's that inclusion? See this? I want you to show you that. Something like that where it's starting to have that inclusion and it almost looks like it's going to rip, it will rip. It's not the end of the world if your dough rips a little bit, okay? Just try not to. Okay, you don't want those big, it's because sometimes when you rip it, it'll cause one of those big fat holes in your dough when you're cooking it, and we don't want that. Okay, so this is what it's looking like. Okay, I try to just get it in, tuck it in and underneath the best I can, because we're going to let this set for a while. Okay, I'm going to go dry my hands off and we'll be back to temp our dough. Okay, let's go ahead and temp our dough. And just for reference, my house is coming in at, let me see here. It's coming in at 77 degrees. All right, 77 degrees. The day's warming up just a pinch. Your house will always warm up unless you got it on a steady, you know, you can regulate your house temp too. You can turn your heater up in your house to 78, 80 degrees if you want. I just naturally let it go to whatever degree it reaches. You know, it'll warm up during the day. Alrighty. So it's still climbing a little bit. I'm just going to give this another 5-6 seconds. As of right now, it's coming in at 76.2. But since my house is coming in at 77 degrees, more than likely this is going to reach 77 degrees by the time we come back and check that out, okay? Okay. Now, since this is coming in at 76.2, I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to explain some things to you real quick, and then we will be back more than likely at probably closer to the 6-hour mark. But let me set this aside here real quick. Okay, let's check out our buddy. That's good. We're seeing some growth from the beginning line. It was right down, that was right at the line right there, so you could tell we've got some growth. And if you look right here, there's a little hole, little gas bubble going on in there. There's another little gas bubble. There's one right there going on. There's some little tiny ones going on. That's another one forming right there. You can just look. This is a good thing. That means we're seeing some growth. It's a nice little buddy to help you determine, you know, your bulk fermentation time. Squeeze that back in there. I set that next to its friend. Okay, so usually when your dough is coming in at 75 to 76 degrees, it's usually going to take about anywhere from 6 to 7 hours to finish its bulk fermentation time, okay? So what I like to do is when I'm getting closer to the 6-hour mark, I'll come back about 5.5 hours from then, because sometimes our temperature changes. Like I said, if this jumps up to 77, even 78, it's going to get closer to that time. So I always try to come and check it about an hour before I know it's that time frame is officially, you know, going to be ready to go. So you never let your dough over ferment. So with that being said, the time frame is probably going to be closer to between 6 and 7 hours, but just don't rely on time. Rely on your senses and what the dough looks like. But with that being said, I will see you closer to probably 5 hours and 45 minutes into the time we started our bulk fermentation time, if that makes sense. So with that being said, I'm going to let this rest for a few hours and I will see you back then, okay? Alrighty, we have reached the 6-hour mark. This is what our dough's doing. Now, it's supposed to be between 6 and 7, depending on what temperature this is coming in at, but I want you to be able to try to rely on some senses. So we do have a few bubbles coming up. And it's starting to separate from the bowl, but not quite. Now let's fill the dough. Nice clean hands. See how the dough is just a little bit sticky? Just a little bit sticky. That's probably a sign it can go another hour. All right. So let's temp it, shall we? Let's go in the same spot. Now our dough is coming in at 77 degrees. So that's okay. It's on the low end of 77. So this tells me I could probably leave this another half an hour. Usually at 77 to 78, it's 6 hours, it's ready to be pulled. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this another half an hour because it's on the low end of 77. We're going to come back in a half an hour and we're going to really see what this dough is looking like, because I think we could get away with even pushing that to the 7 at 77 degrees. So between that 6 and 7. So let's make a judgment call and let's come back at the 6.5 hour mark, okay? Because it still feels just a little bit tacky. Doesn't quite feel like it's quite done yet. Let's pull it to the side. That's good. There's no strings. Let's look at our let's look at the window pane here, shall we? See how strong we made that gluten. Pretty nice. I don't know if you can see that, but if you can pull up your window pane and you're not ripping your dough and you can see your fingers, the shadow of your fingers behind that, you did a really good job of strengthening your gluten. All right, so with that being said, I think it's safe to say that we can come back in another half an hour, and by that time we should be seeing a little bit more bubblage. Okay, I just think from the way it feels a little sticky, those are some signs that you are more than likely can leave this another half hour to an hour. See, there's another bubble coming up. So what I will do is I will see you guys in another half an hour at the 6.5 hour mark, because we're still in that 77 range, and we're going to see what it's looking like. Okay, with that being said, I will see you in another half an hour. I almost forgot to reference, my house is coming in at 77 degrees, and I almost forgot to show you our little buddy. This is what he's looking like. There he was. He's pretty much almost doubled. It's starting to dome, which is a good thing. We're starting to get lots of gas bubbles. As you can see, it's getting very prominent. This is a good thing right in here. Okay. Looking very nicely. All right, with that being said, I will see you back in another half an hour, okay? All right, we are at the 6.5 hour mark. Let's check our dough. It's starting to get a lot more jiggly. Now let's just rely on some of our senses, not just the temperature, okay? So if we look at the dough, we can see this is starting to separate just a little bit more from the bowl, which is a good thing. We got a few more bubbles coming up, lots of little tiny ones. This one's getting bigger, that one's getting bigger. Now with our clean hands, let's touch the dough. See how it's just a little less sticky? That's a good thing. It's still pulling back really nicely from the bowl. All right. And the jiggle also is getting much, much better, which is a good thing. It's not so stiff. All right, so let's go ahead and temp our dough. It's creeping up. It still looks like it's staying steady at 77 degrees, which is a good thing. And my house is coming in at 77 degrees also. That's another good thing. So here would kind of be your call. See how it's really, really jiggy. It's pulling away from the bowl a lot more, etc. I think this is safe to say we're getting some more bubbles. Right here, right here. The more you jiggle your dough, the more bubbles you'll get. See, there's another one. See, this is a pretty good sign that we could probably go ahead and dump this, and this is going to be ready to do our pre-shape, then our final shape, and then toss it in the fridge. With that being said, let's go ahead and make the call, and we're going to dump this out, and we're going to do our pre-shape, our final shape. We're going to put it in our basket and call it a day, okay? All right, I got my little scraper buddy, and I'm going to be using some rice flour, okay? What I like to do is I like to sprinkle the top of this, because this is going to be the top of my dough, okay? I like to pat that down just a little bit. And one more thing I like to do when I'm putting the rice flour on top, it gives you a better definition of what the dough is looking like. You can poke it. You see how that dent kind of stays and it's not really bouncing back? This is another really good sign that this is ready to go. See how I poked it, it kind of just stayed there and it's slowly coming back? That's a good one. And then when you put the rice flour on it, you can really tell that this is starting to separate from the bowl. Okay, with that being said, here's the final test. Let's go ahead and give it a dump. Just let it dump out on its own. Don't be in a rush. It will fall out all on its own. And the best part is, once this comes out the bowl, you'll be able to tell if you did a good job on your bulk fermentation or not. But usually, if you really want to help it just along, you can just give it a good rock, nice slow rock. Let it come out all on its own, just like so. And this is what your bowl should look like if you nailed your bulk fermentation, just like this. See how there's no dough stuck to the sides, there's no dough stuck at the bottom. This is another really good sign that you did this just right. All right, we nailed the bulk fermentation. We did a good judgment call, 6.5 hours. All right, so now that this is just going to be a pre-shape, what we are going to do is we are going to shape this very selectively, but we are not going to decompress the dough at the same time, if that makes sense. So what I like to do is I like to fold this out as wide as this will go. Remember, this is the inside of our dough. We're touching the bottom of it. The bottom of it is going to be the top of our dough. So kind of just gently spread this out as far as it will let you go. You can kind of admire all your nice little holes that you have created, little gas bubbles. All right, so now that I kind of got it spread out, as far as I think the dough will let me go without totally flattening it out, what I do is I pull this all to one side like that. And you can tell it's still jiggly. And I pull this one all the way over, just like that. What I like to do is I like to pinch these sides in, pinch the top side, and then I will pinch the bottom side in, just like so. Okay, and I will fold it, and while I'm folding it, I will tuck in the sides as I'm going, kind of like that. Keep tucking the sides in, keep going, keep tucking the sides in. And you're going to want to pull some tension, just like so. Kind of like that. You can tuck the sides in, kind of like that. Just like so. You want to pull this back, give it some tension, even pull it back even more, give it a little bit more tension. Now you notice that we're not using a lot of flour. It's because we did the right amount of hydration with the right amount of flour, with the right amount of starter. And this is what happens when you really know what hydration ratios are and everything in your recipe, and it'll come out like this. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the bowl back on this, and we're going to let this rest for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then we're going to come back and we're going to do one final good tight shape on it, and we're going to put it in our basket and call it a day. Okay, this has been sitting for about 8-9 minutes now. Since remember I told you to do a really loose, like get it good tension at the first part, but don't really tighten it, because we're going to be doing a second shape. So what I like to do with this is I just like to come over here and I will give it one more good squeeze. Not too much, you don't want to deflate it. And I will just kind of get it with a little scraper help. You shouldn't need any rice flour, really. You shouldn't need any flour. Kind of go like that with it. Now keep in mind we do have inclusions. Okay. You're just going to want to, now since my bowl or my basket's going to be shaped like this, I kind of want to make it into that shape. So what I'll do is I'll kind of rock it, kind of like that. Doesn't have to be a lot. But you do want to create some tension on this, okay? Because this is our final tension that we're putting on our dough. And if it's getting away from you, just kind of go like that. Push it back towards you, back towards you, back towards you, back towards you. You really want to give this some good tension without ripping the dough. Some good tension. Keep going. You're doing good. We really want to give some good tension on this dough. Now, I told you our basket's shaped like that. So what I do is I kind of go like this with it. Kind of. And see how our little buddies on the side closed itself up? Just like so. Okay? Oh, we'll put that on at the end. All right. And that's pretty much it. We gave it a good tension right at the end. Okay, that's the bottom part. Now what I like to do is I'll just lightly flour this. Okay, and I will set it right in there, just like that. Now keep in mind, our dough already has oil on it, so you really don't need a lot. Okay, so now that we got this little buddy in here, what I like to do is I like to squeeze the sides like this. Just come up over it. Let's go all the way down your buddy. Your dough buddy, kind of squeeze them up real good. Just like so. Now the sides are already tightened enough. And you can always take it kind of like that. You don't want to rip it too much, but you want to give it one final tension. Kind of just like that. You just want to give that final little tight tug on it. And you know you did a good job when your dough's not ripping. See how it's kind of tightening itself? I can kind of go like that with it, tighten it over, something like that. You can pull that even a little bit even over. You just want to give it that final nice little tug. Just like so. Kind of get it over there. And I'll come back here on this side and I'll give it one final push. Like that. Just like that. And that's it. All right, good morning. It is bake day. So with that being said, I'm going to show you how I prep my Dutch oven and prep my bread and etc. And I'll let you come along with me to bake it so you can be very successful in finishing out this loaf of inclusions with me. With that being said, go ahead and get your Dutch oven. Make sure it's looking something like this, nice and clean. Do not try to cook with a dirty Dutch oven. It won't evenly distribute the heat. Always keep it a clean Dutch oven, okay? All right. With that being said, go ahead and put your lid back on your Dutch oven, and I'm going to take you over to the stove. We are going to set our oven for 450 degrees, and we're going to let that sit for an entire hour, okay? And this is what I'm referring to. You see the bottom rack right there? There's the burner, and then my second rack is 2 notches up. That is where I place my Dutch oven in the oven, okay? So I go ahead and close this up and I set my oven on 450 degrees and I will officially see you in an hour. Right, and this is how I place my Dutch oven in the stove. You see the bottom rack by the burner, and then my second rack is 2 notches up. And this is how I like to place my Dutch oven in the oven and cook my bread on, you know, the placement of the racks. With that being said, I go ahead and close up the oven door and I set my oven to 450 degrees and I let it sit in here for an entire hour. Okay, with that being said, I'll see you in an hour. Okay, I'm going to show you my little cheese secret. It's not really a secret, but how I like to do my cheese in my inclusion loaves. And I also like to put a little cheese on my loaf right at the last like 5 minutes that it's baking, so it gives it that cheesy crust. Okay, so this is exactly 50 grams. What I do is I grate it up very, very thin. And I'll show you the size on the cheese grater, what size I use. And this is it. Nice little thin pieces, 50 grams. I put some smoked paprika spice and a little bit of cayenne spice on that. Mix it up. I always prep this the day before when I'm prepping my dough and my inclusions, and I let it sit in the fridge overnight. Now it's the next morning. What I like to do is cover this back up with this little reusable silicone lid. I'll go take my silicone mat and I'll place this on top of the stove while the bread cooks throughout its time, and then the last 5 minutes I'll sprinkle the cheese on so it gets kind of room temperature-ish, okay? With that being said, I want to show you the different sizes. Most everybody has a cheese grater, maybe not like this. You might have something fancier, but you get the gist, the understanding. You know, there's different sizes. You got your cheese slices for like your breads, etc. Then you have this size, which is, you know, a bigger chunk grated size, but I like to use this little tiny one right here. This one right here, the smallest size on your cheese grater, is what I use to grate my cheese up, so it makes it nice and thin. And when you put it in your inclusions, in your dough, it melts very fast, it gets evenly distributed, and of course when we go to add it at the end, it's super thin, so it melts fast and it's evenly distributed as well. So that's my little cheese. That's how I like to grate my cheese, that size. So hope that helps you a little bit. Maybe you're getting thicker chunks even when you grate it and it's just not melting properly. Try to just do the smallest size on your grater. That will help you out. Okay, with all that being said, our Dutch oven is officially reached its time. It's been a little over an hour in the oven, so let's get our dough. Let's take it out. I'm going to be using, instead of a reusable silicone mat, I'm going to be using some parchment paper because we're adding cheese on it today, okay? So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to score it, we're going to put it in the oven, and I'm just going to walk you through step by step. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, you got your parchment paper, right? Here's another little trick for you. Crumple this up, okay? And what happens when you crumple this up, it prevents the paper from giving you those lines sometimes you see on the side of your dough when you are using parchment paper, okay? So just flatten that back out, just like so. And one more quick tip about parchment paper. If you are going to be using clean ingredients in your bread, wouldn't you want clean ingredients what you're baking with? So try not to get bleached parchment paper. You don't want to cook your dough on bleach. Okay, try to get the unbleached parchment paper if you can, okay? All right, so now that we got our parchment paper, let's set this aside and let's go get our dough, and I'll show you kind of a different way to score it before we put it in the oven, all right? Very nice. Okay. That little guy we will save for after we dump that out. I kind of like to dust off the rice flour just a pinch. What I will do, I will take my parchment paper and we'll just flip this over. Now here's your time to adjust it. It's going to be fine. It'll be pretty much semi right in the middle. Got one. And you're going to notice with the rice flour, if you notice that, you're going to see the rice flour all here on the side of your flour cloth, which is a good thing. That's one thing I like about rice flour. It doesn't stick. All right. This is what our dough is looking like. Okay. So now is your time. If you want to do a really pretty score to this, you're more than welcome to spritz your dough with a little bit of filtered water and then sprinkle some of your flour on, and you can make some really pretty designs. But for me, I'm just really not that big into scoring. We go through bread so fast in my house that it gets consumed very fast. So most people take a razor blade or a sharp kitchen knife and they will do those pretty scoring. I'm going to show you a different way of doing it. I like to cut sometimes with a pair of scissors. So I'll take it like this, and I will just go in there like that. Get a nice deep cut. See how I'm angling the scissors like that? I'm going in, going in, going in, just like so. And I will go all the way down, just like that. And I want to make sure I get the bottom part over there. And that's it. You will see a nice even cut. Now you can see the length of the scissors where I went in and did that. Okay. It's going to be about there. Okay. And I instead of going at the top, I kind of go in an angle like that. So, all right. That's just a different way of you being able to try out scoring your bread. And just something about the scissors, like you can angle it just right and you kind of know the depth that you're going in. I kind of really like it versus maybe just a sharp kitchen knife. Just a little trick for you. Okay, remember our little buddy? Maybe we'll put him right in there. All right, with that being said, I'm going to take you over to the oven. We're going to put this in. We're going to put the lid back on it, and we're going to bake this, okay? Okay, should look something like this. All right, we're going to go ahead and put our lid back on. Okay, just like that. Now keep in mind, I do not use ice cubes, okay? Now what you're going to do is you're going to close up your oven door. You're going to set your timer for 50 minutes, and we will come back in 50 minutes and take the lid off and then add the cheese, okay? Don't forget, you're still cooking this on 450 degrees. Don't forget that, all right? All right, I'll see you in 50 minutes. And this is what I mean by the cheese. I will just leave this little bowl of cheese right here on my silicone mat, and I will let that kind of heat up to room temperature or warm it up. We want it really, really warm when we put it on our bread when we take the lid off in 50 minutes. So I will officially see you then. Alrighty. This is our loaf looking beautiful. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle the cheese on it and bake it for another 10 minutes, okay? Now when you do the cheese, kind of just sprinkle it like that. Something like that, okay? Kind of over the sides, evenly disperse it. And kind of go like that with it. Okay, it's going to look something like that. Get all the cheese out of the bowl, stick this back in your oven, and we're going to bake this for another 10 minutes, okay? Now what I want you guys to do is take your bread out of the oven. You see the color of your crust? Now I want this a little darker, so I'm going to put this back in for another 5-10 minutes, okay? But the main part is I want you to temp the internal temperature of your dough. We want this to be a minimum of 200 degrees, okay? It has officially been another 10 minutes. We have pulled this out. You see how much a little bit darker that crust got? You can even cook this even darker if you like, but I think this is really nice. Now we want our temperature to at least be 200 to 220. So I like it around, you know, like I said, 220 is ideal for me, but I like it around that 210 is right in the middle. So let's see what this is coming out to. Okay, we are coming in at 214 degrees. That's perfect. Okay. All right, now that we got this, let's take this out of the Dutch oven and we're going to place it on our cooling rack, okay? Be very, very careful when you take this out. It should just come right out like that. The parchment paper won't be hot. It'll just be your Dutch oven that's hot. So kind of just like that, okay? All right, we're just going to set that right there and I'm going to show you how to take your paper off. Notice the Dutch oven. You see all that grease and everything, the cheese and everything, even if we had the parchment paper. This is why this is important to clean your Dutch oven. Go soak it in your sink with some hot water, because this is a product of not cleaning your Dutch oven after you cook. You get all these cakey bread spots and everything, okay? Okay, the Dutch oven is soaking in some very hot water with some dish soap. That is a very good way for, by the time that soaks a few hours, you'll be able to, it'll just slide right off your Dutch oven, okay? See what I mean about the paper's not hot, but your Dutch oven is? This is what your gigantic loaf is looking like, okay? You got all these cheese bits. Now what I like to do, get your oven mitt because it's a little hot, okay? Just slide this over. Just like so, okay? And this is what this is looking like. I want you to notice something. This is going to be very, very hard. I don't want you to poke this. We will look at the bottom when this cools down, okay? But you see how it's not burnt? This is a massive loaf. I wish I could take the camera and give you an eye view, but it's like, here's the bottom, here's the top. It looks like that. Like it's just one huge, massive loaf, okay? This is going to be very, very important for you, okay? Let me get these little pieces on here. I do not want you to cut into your bread for a minimum of 2 to 3 hours. I know it's going to be hard to want to cut into this, but please keep in mind, if you cut into this when it's still hot, okay, I'm going to tell you a couple reasons why not to, but here's one of the main ones. If you cut into this when it's still hot, meaning it's still cooking, your dough will turn gummy. Okay, you do not want to do that. You worked very hard on this loaf yesterday and you put it in the fridge. Now we got done baking it. It's this beautiful golden brown crust. You do not want to mess up your hard work, okay? So please do not cut into your bread for 2 to 3 hours, especially when you are working with inclusions, okay? You want all those inclusions to cool down all on its own room temperature, okay? So if I can wait 3 hours, you can wait 3 hours, and then I'll come back in 3 hours and we'll cut it open and we'll look at it. Number 2, you're going to notice that the crust is super hard right now, but I promise you with this 80 or 70% hydration, this will be a very soft loaf. Number 3, when you first pull this out of the oven, this is still cooking. This is still cooking. It is still going to cook for another hour to 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. So it's finishing cooking your dough. That's what it's doing. It's still baking your dough on the inside, okay? So keep that in mind. It's not done cooking all the way, okay? Okay. Trust and believe. On my journey, when I first started doing sourdough, I did that. I was so, I want to cut into when it's nice and warm. And it ended up just messing my bread up. It turned out gummy. It turned out stale. The crust didn't turn out right. So I promise you, just be patient and wait. Your bread is still cooking. It's still finishing what it needs to do. And on top of that, you will keep that nice, huge oven spring, not cutting into this all the way, okay, until it's cooled down. With that being said, you're going to thank me later, and I will officially see you in about 3 hours, okay? Okay, it's been a little over 3 hours. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the bottom. That is the bottom. Wonderful, nothing's burnt. Let's go ahead and do the knock test. Nice and hollow. I want you to look at that. I don't know if you can see that. Look how big that oven spring is. Wow. Pretty nice, huh? Take a close-up look. Let's go to the other rear side. See if I can get a good shot of that. Told you it's one big massive loaf. All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and cut into this. Get my very sharp, handy dandy bread knife. Okay, what do you think this is going to look like? Considering this was a 70% hydration. Any guesses? All right, so I know we did the scissoring because you can see how that turned out. You see that? I want to show you something. Look at those cool little spikes it made. Isn't that neat? All right, so we're going to go this way. Okay, you ready? You will thank yourself later waiting for this, okay? Always try to keep your fingers away from the knife when you're cutting, okay? Always place your knife away from you. Are you ready? Wow. Wow. Look at that. Isn't that something? Get up real close. You notice how there's no gummy spots? Do you see the inclusions, how they're evenly incorporated? Look at all those nice holes. Not over fermented, not under fermented. I want you to notice something. You see these big strands going? That's all our gluten strength. You notice these big strands stretching across? That's all of your gluten strength that you created at the beginning of this. This is what your loaf is going to end up turning out like, and I'm going to take a picture of that because that's absolutely beautiful. Okay, let me take another picture. I just have to admire this. Wow. Wow. So beautiful. But there you go. Look how big that is. This is a big, massive loaf. Everything was on point. Our inclusions, our hydration, our bulk fermentation, the time it was left in the fridge, etc. And I'll go over some few more details after we cut this, okay? So let's go ahead. Be very gentle with the knife when you're coming down. Don't want to cut your fingers. Okay. Set that one over there. Look at that. Look at that. Look how big that is. Isn't that wonderful? Let me take a smell. Oh, it smells delicious. Look at all the cheese melted on there. It's the bottom. That's the side. Looks great, right? Okay, I just want to show you one more thing and then we'll go over some details. I do have a bread slicer. I might bust this out and show you 1 or 2 times that I do that with, but maybe I'll make another video of how I cut my bread. But I think I'll do that. I'll just do another video and that'll be on my playlist, how I slice my bread and store it, etc. Okay, so most people cut like this, right? When you're doing sourdough, just flip that over. Look how wide that is. Turn it over to its side and cut into it like that. Okay, let's take a look at that. This is what your bread's gonna look like. Nice and fluffy. See the inclusions, how the cheese is evenly dispersed? And I want you to notice something else. You know you did a good job when your crust isn't pulling away from the bread inside, or the dough, I should say, that turned into bread. You see how it's all connected and it's not spacing out? You know you did a good job. With that being said, let's take a bite. Wow. That's delicious. Well, excuse me, I don't want to talk with my mouth full. And this is your massive loaf. This is what you will, right there. This is what you will achieve just adding more flour and adjusting your hydration to your recipe. Well, what do you guys think? Did you like watching this? Maybe you learn something new? So maybe some new tips and tricks, maybe a new way to bake your bread, a new way of working your dough at the beginning. Maybe I helped you out with some bulk fermentation that you're struggling with. Maybe you're struggling with hydrations in a recipe. Maybe to understanding that your starter already has flour and water in it and you need to adjust that and subtract that accordingly, etc. But this is how people are getting these big, massive loaves, just like that. They are just adding more flour and adjusting the hydration in the recipe to make it look like this, a big, massive loaf. This in total was 750 grams of flour and 525 grams of water. And that with the inclusions, it was probably closer to like a 71% hydration, but this is a 70% hydration recipe. This is what your bread will end up looking like with pretty much a 70% hydration. Okay. All right. Well, this is pretty much it. This is the end result. Let's see. Let's go over some basic things. This was a coming in strong with the 70% hydration. It took us 7 hours total to make this, and I left this in the fridge for probably, I'm going to say about 12 to 14 hours. So closer to the 14-hour mark by the time my Dutch oven heated up in the oven and was ready to go. So about 14 hours total. And I will definitely make sure I post the recipe down here below for you. And like I said, how long it took us to make this, how long my bread was in the fridge for, etc., stuff like that. I hope this video really encourages you that you can do anything your little heart desires on your sourdough endeavors as long as you have the right knowledge. If you guys are seeing this video and you're still struggling with a starter, hydration, bulk fermentation, cooking time, maybe you're not understanding, the fridge times, etc., you guys go to my playlist. There's a bunch of free videos on there. Check them out. It might really help you, and it's very educational. So I just want nothing for the best of you. I made it here this far because of all my catastrophic fails in the past of giving it, from watching videos and watching people and getting the wrong knowledge. That's all it was. I didn't have the proper knowledge, the proper education to learn how to do this right. And I finally got it down, and this is the end product of me understanding you know, how to maneuver around in making sourdough. That's pretty much all it is. With all that being said, if you guys liked anything in this video, I will go ahead and post some Amazon links down below. I'll mark exactly what they are. If you liked them, any of them, the knife to the flexible bench scraper to the whiskey poo, anything like that. If you guys liked any of that stuff, I will post some Amazon links down below. I'll tell you exactly what they are. Go check them out. But just keep in mind, you don't have to have any of this fancy stuff to make this. You need the ingredients, you need a bowl, you need your hands, and you need knowledge. That's it, okay? To be able to absolutely master something like this. Other than that, I hope this inspired you to keep doing what you're doing on your journey, and eventually you will get to where I'm at as well. With that being said,